Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is the Rebirth of America. And I think this ties in with what I was saying in yesterday's program. So if you missed that, I'd encourage you to go back and watch it, because I think it is the same message from two different people. First of all, we encourage you to subscribe to the channel and also join Prophecy Club for $9.90 a month on an automatic monthly donation. All right, so here it is. This was this past Sunday, as was Terry Bennett's. I think it's very interesting that these two guys got almost the same message the same day, brought it from their pulpits this past Sunday. Chris Reed, March 9th, 2024. This is the summary line. The eclipse in April 2024 is triggering an awakening, starting in April 2024, that's the good news, and lasts until July 2025. In other words, that's the difficulty. And I think, remember I told you I had 5 dreams in 1 week and telling me to lighten the load, and I've lightened the load, and I think this is the reason. In other words, I think that America's about to go into a perfect storm. He says, I was moving fast in time in the dream, and starting in April 2024, associated with the eclipse over Texas. It seemed Texas was pulled into this at the same time around April 2024. I think Texas, because there's a lot of things going on in Texas, with the southern border and things like that. There's a civil war going on between Biden and our Governor Abbott right now. April 2024, metaphorically, a conception happened at this time and coincided with this eclipse, leading to something serious, some serious event happening in the nation before the elections in November 2024. So what is the serious event? Now, stay tuned, because at the end of this, we're going to talk about what that serious event could be based upon the prophecies. So this serious event caused absolute chaos, affected the elections in the U.S. in November 2024. So what could cause chaos around election time? It seemed like an epic October surprise, and pandemonium ensued. In the dream, I knew that the President Biden had fizzled out, and they had tried hard to prop him up, but this event right before the election caused a major division of America right before and during election time. It intensified the division already in the nation to a very scary and intense level. Now, that sounds like it's President Biden. Somehow he's not on the ticket. That's just a guess, not part of the prophecy. Let's go on. The dream shifted, and I was taken back to the year 1968. I was given an old newspaper with a headline, Assassination of Two Major Leaders in the Same Year of Chicago Convention. That was 1968. Robert Kennedy Sr., Bobby Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr., who were both killed in 1968. The 1968 Democratic Convention was in Chicago, and it's in Chicago once again in 2024. He says, I knew that that was significant, but through all the painful chaos in the streets, the economy, and on the news, America had a huge awakening of awareness of evil and corruption going on in America. I'm going to read that again because I want you to remember that. We're going to talk about that here at the end. America had a huge awakening of awareness of evil and corruption going on in our nation. It was like most of the nation on the other side, in other words, the left, finally said, we can never have this happen again. We can't. In other words, we got to stop this evil. Apparently, even the left saw it. Now, at the end, I'm going to talk about what we think that could be. The dream ended, and at the end of the dream, it was July 2025. For some reason, July the 11th was highlighted on the calendar. That's associated with July the 4th, so, It seemed like most of the chaos ended in the nation, and things were starting to heal by July 2025. Now, that's good news. I've got some bad news here, too. It had started in April and May 2024. I'll say that again. It started in April, May 2024. time frame associated with the eclipse. It was a picture coinciding with a baby conception. There were 40 weeks of pregnancy as with a human child. This pregnancy was with intense birth pains, gradually intensifying until the delivery. There were complications before and after the birth. Since the conception begins around April, around 9 months later, the baby, the new nation of America, was being born, around January of 2025. That's interesting because also that's about the time of the inauguration. But this baby was born, and the thing that had happened right before the election was almost like it went on into Braxton Hicks contractions. And I had to look that up. Okay, so Braxton Hicks contractions they're not full-fledged contractions bringing the baby. It's just like they're little bitty earthquakes going on in the lady all the time. And they're part of getting her ready. It seemed like the birthing time was then, but it was still very intense and felt very real, and it was like the baby wanted to come at that moment, but somehow it was delayed being born like a premature baby before the election. Here comes the bad news. When this bad event happens, it held off until January, so the birth is, as I said, was in January 2025. I was placed in an incubator even after it was born for several months. The baby lived, and it was a beautiful baby, and the dream ended by me seeing this baby wrapped in an American flag, like in the maternity ward. The baby was laying like in the little beds with their name tags at the top, and the name tag of the baby read, America. It was the rebirth of America. Now, that's what I thought was good news. And as I was typing this up, getting ready to put it on, I got a really big yawn. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you don't believe I hear from God, that means nothing. But if you do believe that I do, and I do believe that I do from time to time, I think what it's saying is that this is the plan that God had put forth to give America one last chance to heal itself. But America apparently doesn't receive this message. See, a lot of times what God sends is not a prophecy. It's not guaranteed to happen. It is a warning. This is going to happen. This bad thing is going to happen if you don't pray. And in this case, this is an opportunity. I believe God is putting forth an opportunity for our nation to heal. But we don't pray. We don't pray enough. And I think that Chris Reed heard from God. And I think God is saying, this is what I want to do. But America, you got to change. You got to pray. Christians, you got to receive this message. You got to get busy. You got to pray. You got to pray this in. But the yawn tells me it's not going to happen. So I'm putting it forth, telling you right up front, I don't think the good part that God wants to bring to America is going to come to America. Now, I say that as a bit of a challenge because, we have like 850 people on our Fast Gap, Fasting and Prayer team, and we have about 1,550 people on our Fast Track Praying and Fasting team. So if you want to be a part of the solution, if you want to pray and fast with 850 other Christians, then go to prophecyclub.com, slide to the bottom, sign up for Fast Gap. What we do is fast from Tuesday evening, midnight, to Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. I have 2 promises. Well, actually 3. One is you can unsubscribe anytime you want to. You don't like it, unsubscribe, okay? 2, I never ask for donations, ever. And I never, ever send product offers. This is only for people that want to fast and pray for our nation. That's all it is. So if you want to be part of the solution, if you want to join 850 other people that fast and pray every Tuesday, midnight to 4 p.m., go to prophecyclub.com, slide to the bottom, sign up for Fast Gap. If you want to pray for me in Prophecy Club, sign up also for Fast Track. Fast Track Prophecy Club, Fast Gap is praying for America. Let's go on. So then Chris goes on to give comments, what he thinks the dream is saying. He said, the dream seems to portray an awakening starting in April 2024, with a significant shaking going on starting then, coinciding with a 40-week painful and traumatic pregnancy. A traumatic event triggers chaos before the elections and lasts for several months, ending with a new birth in January of 2025, requiring care in the incubator until at least July 2025. The 1968 Democratic Convention was very chaotic. It was very much a time like now, with lots of protests. It's scheduled to be in Chicago again this year. And here's the part. We need to pray. I think that Americans, we let that pray stuff ride right over our head. Now, probably not the folks that listen to Prophecy Club, but your typical Christian out there, pray very little. As a matter of fact, it shocks me. One thing that shocked me when we started having our Solemn September assemblies, how many Christians had never fasted. Are you serious? How can you be a Christian and not fast? Well, let's go on. And here's the part we need to pray about. I think this is a warning and a call to pray for the people of God to take this seriously. Exactly. It's not a warning. It's an opportunity. See, a warning is normally something bad is coming. This is an opportunity. In other words, God is saying, I want to do something good for you, America. But this one is very conditional. You got to pray it in if you want it. My guess is most Americans won't even hear this. If they did, they wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't pray about it, you see. Let's go on. Let me refresh your memory. Okay, so the point we're trying to get to here is, what are those special events, those bad events coming? We know that we have some active prophecies. We have 34 prophecies saying suitcase nukes are going to come, which, by the way, if you don't want them to, if you want your car to start, you go to EMPShield.com, you get one of these. If you put in the promo code prophecy, it gets you a $50 discount, and it helps your Prophecy Club. Also, we got 17 saying a meteor, tsunami, and earthquake is going to hit. 14 say a food shortage. 11 say a dollar is going to fall. 7 say surprise and nuclear attack from Russia is going to hit. Now, what is the serious bad event? Okay, it could be we split Israel, give the Palestinians a state. As a result, those 14 prophecies right here, 17 prophecies, kick in. And all of a sudden, there's a New Madrid earthquake. And that is in several of the prophecies. Then death of the dollar. It could be that the dollar falls. It could be food shortages. It could be a new currency. It could be an internal revolution with massive arrests. I don't think it's suitcase nukes. And I'm pretty sure that it's not Russia attacking us. So which ones is it? Okay, well, here's a little hint. Down here at number 9, says a new dollar bill like a cell phone with George Washington's face on it, and then he saw the headline, a new currency for a renewed nation. Renewed nation? Does that sound like a new rebirth? See, so God has given us 2 hints here. He wants to do a lot of healing in this nation, but we got to pray. If my people will call by my name, will turn from the wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins and heal their land. That's what God wants to do. Problem is, I got the yawn. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we need to try. I hope I'm wrong, okay? So what's the serious bad event? Is it one of these? Well, one of the headlines was a perfect storm. Let me back up, I'll show you. Okay, where was the perfect storm? Here it is, number 2. A perfect storm, subtitle, inflation reaches new high. What is a perfect storm? A perfect storm is when several things bad hit all at once. So my guess is, what is the serious bad event? It's probably all of them. Palestinian state, New Madrid earthquake, death of dollar, food shortages, new currency, internal revolution, massive arrests. All happening at once. Now, since it ties in so perfectly with this one, even though I read this just yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and read this again, because I think if you look at both of these, These are two great men of God that came up with the same prophecy on the same day, read it from their pulpits the same day, and it's saying the same thing. Bible says, in the mouth of two or three witnesses, let a thing be established. Here's the second witness. I read it yesterday. I would encourage you to stay with me for it again today. So I entitled this New Trouble Soon, but Short-Lived. He entitles it, Look Down from the Road for Our Nation, Terry Bennett. It's of importance, or I wouldn't be sharing it as far as I'm concerned. I believe it'll make sense in the next few months because I think we're looking at not years, but in the short-term look. I think we're looking at months. It's the same thing Chris said. So there's importance, I believe, in the warning that I got from the Lord. There's part of this that's literally like an interstate in front of me. Donna and I were traveling in some type of vehicle down this interstate, and we had to come to a halt and then move very slowly forward because these multiple large potholes were in the road in front of us. Perfect storm. Let me say to you, what I'm about to describe is dealing with economics, governmental issues. Then the governmental issues would include resources, in other words, chain supply stoppages, sorcery resources, evil, Molochs and stuff, finances, support, those types of things from states right down to the individuals. So the road was filled with potholes for some hundreds of yards. It was not lengthy. So what I'm describing is a short, difficult time in our nation. Exactly what Chris said. It's not the big one. Exactly what Chris said. That has been foretold by the Lord, but it's the short term, but not far off in front of us. Does that make sense? So the roadway was filled with potholes due to the lack of them being addressed over the years. In other words, allowing evil to sneak into our nation, not addressing it over the years. Potholes representing different things, some of the different depths. I knew this to go speeding through the area would be to blow out your tires, break your axles on the vehicle if you went fast. What was really already slowed down was what became much slower of necessity. That's an economic term. Again, this is not the big one. It may feel that way during these things like this, but it won't be. That has not been prayed away yet, and this is what I'm talking about now is coming. There is no stopping it. There was, because of the potholes, that were representing many things, including agendas, mismanagement, overspending, and national debt out of control, but all triggered by governmental overreach and every responsible unlawful action in various leaders. That's what Chris said, unlawful action, okay? Lies, oppression, criminal actions will be a portion of why this stretch of the road will be filled with potholes and the difficulties of the time. A slowdown is a must, and that will be in various types of applications. Navigating will be treacherous, but not impossible, especially, I'll say this, to God's people to trust Him to lead and directed by Him. To be treacherous, but not impossible for the righteous and the wise. So, there were some statements that were said to me by the Lord. He spoke and said, fractured functions. The breaking of structure in the nation is like bones of support being broken. Things like electricity going down. Can't get food. Highways blocked. Dams blown up. Bridges blown up. Those kind of things. Secondly, functional disabilities. The restriction of one's own movement within the nation as well as progress, instead limitations. Civil war, could also be martial law, curfews. Lastly, disabling functions, particularly important functions as well as unnecessary functions. In fact, unnecessary, unimportant functions were leading to the disability of important functions because they have robbed and drained the resources. There will be no bailout this time. So there will be a disabling of government functions, not all, but some, as well as a disabling of certain businesses. See how it lines up what Chris said? Disabling supply and demand for short periods of time. In other words, the supply chain is broken. Some areas of the nation are worse than others. The demand for supplies will not be able to be met. Can't get parts for your cars, repairs for your houses, things like that. Part of that being the lack of movement at times going on in the nation. Again, This will be a short term, and it will then be better. Same thing Chris said. I say again, it's not the end, nor is it the big one that the Lord has talked about, spoken of for many years and foretold. Worse will follow what we're about to experience, and it will be what I saw in this nation. The worst is international, but it's at a distance. I agree. The mercy of God is in this so that we can trust him. We must always trust him. He is trustworthy, and he will prove to us he is trustworthy. That does not mean we'll have it easy. It does not mean that everything will be great and taken care of. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what the Lord is saying. But we can trust him, right? Since 2008 and 9, when it was hard hit upon the nation, that wasn't the big one either. He will be trustworthy. I'll say it this way. The fear of the Lord will need to be great in us and become even greater in us. So let me finish up. More shortages in supply and demand chain will occur due to interstate disruptions, food supplies. Secondly, federal support will be small. No one answering 911 calls, no ambulance coming, no police coming, no food coming, no water coming, no help coming. Secondly, federal support will be small, at times non-existent, including the breakdown temporarily of monthly types checks. We demand our entitlements, okay? Thirdly, some states will be forced to provide for what the federal government cannot. Others will be unable to because of their own economic issues. You will need to have the Lord's wisdom. I would advise strongly that you store up at least a few weeks' worth of food. Of course, I'm going to recommend you go to Joseph's Kitchen. Let me just say it straight, okay? Let me just say it. Wheat is God's famine food. I know there's a lot of people selling long-term emergency storage food. Joseph's Kitchen is the only one I know that is selling wheat and prepackaged, nitrogen-packed plastic pails designed to last 25 years. Most time you buy wheat, it comes in a brown paper bag. Even mark on it's only good for about a year. Joseph's Kitchen, the way they send it, the way they package it, it's good. You know, the way they package it is packaged for 25 years. And then they have everything you need to learn to make your own. I had bread for lunch. I had bread for almost every day. It is my breakfast and my lunch right now. And I always have a slice of it before I go play racquetball. Okay, let's back to this. I've had people say to me, well, Terry, I'll just trust God. No, you're trusting in the system we have, and it's not trustworthy. I don't need to store because I trust God. Well, if you go back 100 years in this nation, that would be foolish talk. There were no supermarkets. We have built a trust in our system. And I'm telling you, it's going to be shaken. We're not trusting God. We're trusting we can go to the supermarket. And I'm uncovering in front of us that is showing a lack of trust in the Lord. We're going to need to learn to trust the Lord. So, what I would suggest? Well, we'd love to have you subscribe. Join Prophecy Club, $9.90 a month. But I'll also recommend, let's see if I got it here. Yeah, right there. Joseph's Kitchen. Once you go there, they have videos. Show you how to make the bread, everything you need. All you have to do is first, everybody got to order a machine package right here. This is the gizmos to take the wheat and make it into bread. Put 4 cups of wheat in the grinder, push a button, 30 seconds later, you have wheat. You put in with about 5 or 6 other ingredients into your bread machine, push a button, 2 hours, 20 minutes later, and have a nice, hot, homemade, whole wheat bread, and it fills the house with the smell, and all of a sudden, people that weren't hungry, now they're hungry because it's good. Then you decide how much food you want. You want food for 1 person a year, 2 people a year, 4 people for a year, or 6 people for a year. I'd recommend you get the big one because, first of all, you're going to like it. But when no one else has food and you have food, you're going to have all your neighbors knocking. You may have some bad people knocking on your door. But here's the thing. Okay, so they don't know how to make bread. They're going to have to count on you. You're the one that can take it from wheat berries, which you can't eat, wheat berries into wholesome whole wheat bread. And, you do this a couple of times a day, 2, 3 times a day. Everybody in the neighborhood knocking on your door, and you're able to get them into a Bible study. It's a wonderful way to say, okay, you can come on in. At my house, I've got solar panels. I'm all set. I've got food. I've got water, filters, everything I've got. So I can take care of my whole neighborhood, probably 2 or 3 blocks around me. And one person said, you're going to have people knocking on your door in the middle of the night with blankets and pillows in hand saying, can we come in? And I said, I'll say, come on in. Just one rule. That is my rule. And that is you got to attend my Bible studies. Okay? And you have to follow our rules. And our rules are Jesus, And I use that to win a lot of people, Lord, if I can. But I'm going to be there. I'm not just providing for just me. I was interviewed on a St. Louis radio station. This was during Y2K. So you have stored up for Y2K. Yes, sir. Well, what are you going to do when they knock on your door and they want some of your food? I can say, come on in. What are you going to do when you run out of it? I said, well, then we'll pray to the Lord that he'll provide. If he can feed 4 million people out of thin air, both food and water for some 40 years out in the Sahara Desert, he can take care of us too. And he didn't have an answer for that. So, it's all about saving souls. It's all about winning souls. That's all it's all about. And my heart is not to try to live to the end. This is my heart. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works to the end, the same will I give power over the nations. And he shall rule them with the rod of iron. And as the vessels of a potter, they shall be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father, and I will give him the morning star. If you serve the Lord all the way to the end of your life, and you are an overcomer, that means you see the beast, hear the beast, but you don't take his mark, then he'll give you the morning star. What's the morning star? That's when Jesus returns with the breath of his nostrils, and he blows a light sword down on the earth. Remember the 2 witnesses? These are my 2 witnesses standing before the God of the earth. If any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of the mouth and devoureth their enemies. If any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. What's that? Morning star. And they remember Jesus, and the remnant were slain by the sword of him that sat on the horse, which the sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. That's the Armageddon. That's the morning star. I want the morning star. So my objective is to win souls, and I'm going to try to work to the end. But in all of these 40 years of reading and studying and teaching Bible prophecy, not me, not my wife, not any of my children has ever had a dream of being in handcuffs or being beaten or tortured or put in some kind of a none of that. Barbed wire prison camp, none of that. God's going to take care of us. I think the best place to be for the tribulation is in Jesus. Because if you're in Jesus, he'll tell you when it's time to go to Egypt so that Herod won't be able to find you. Know what I'm saying? He'll take care of us. He'll take care of us. Just trust in Jesus. But you got to trust in Jesus with a close walk. No sin, no spot, no wrinkle. So anyway, what I recommend, go to this empshield.com. Get you one of these. I have it on each of our cars. You can also make one for your house so that when an EMP shield, I said we, not if, but when an EMP shield or an EMP pulse hits you, your car still starts. And then go to Joseph Kitchen. Also, you can go to 800-200-GOLD, 800-200-GOLD, and get your IRA or your 401k into gold and silver, or just get you some gold and silver. Get yourself prepared, not just for you, but for your neighborhood too.